Hey guys, Justin Brock here, and we are hitting another episode of Gurunomics, where we're going to dive in deep with Gaylan Hendricks, the queen of the bundle today. We're going to talk about what she's been up to, her trajectory, where she started in the insurance industry, and try to figure out where she's going to today, and then how we're getting more and more involved. Obviously, everybody knows we have a long-standing relationship, and we're compounding on that all the time as to how we can bring more value to all of you. So welcome, Gaylan. Thank you so much.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
again.
Well, of course we want to get you on here as much as possible, because the people, they love you. So so Gaylan, I want to try to tell a little bit more than people always get the same things in certain interviews or certain videos, where it's the surface level stuff, or the things that we're working on today, and they don't understand the evolution of the person we're interviewing, right? So in the insurance industry, there are a lot of things. Somebody told me the other day that Medicare sales make up 3% of all insurance sales in the country. And we live in that 3%. So we think it's the biggest part, but it's not. There's tons of things. And I know that you started off in, obviously you've been in Medicare, you've been in under 65, but you started off in other areas as well. So tell me where you started in the insurance industry, and let's talk about that evolution a little bit.
Well, it's a good thing we're recording this, because, I'm headed towards the senior space myself. So at least I'll have a memorial of where I've been. So 36 years ago is when I started. This last May 12th, celebrated 36 years in this business. That's just hard to believe. But, I thought I was going to work for a pharmaceutical sales company. And my dad got his wish. I walked into an insurance agency. We would consider it an FMO now, but back then they were just called large marketing agencies, or a GA, terms that we use kind of all different today, right? Mm-hmm. But I walked in there to be their commission accounting person, and I walked out of there becoming this person who really understood telesales, understood telemarketing, understood all aspects of the insurance business. And that was probably some of the best training I had. I think what I really got out of that business was the customer service skill set, and not just to the customer, because the agent was our customer. So I think that's why agents relate to me very well, is because I always put them in a place of revere. I revere them. I respect them. I appreciate the job they have. It's a hard job. I've done straight commission. As you know, once I figured out straight commission, I've always had commission be part of my pay, even when I was working for someone, because I wanted to understand what that agent went through. And one of the best things I learned coming up the ranks was, I just shared this with a mutual friend of ours yesterday, a new kid on the block, Miles. And I told him, I said, I had a Funkin' Wagnalls encyclopedia district manager that came to run our sales at the first agency I was with. Mm-hmm. And he said, surround yourself with positive people, because he goes, every time they complain, they're taking $1 out of your pocket. And even though those would be considered dinosaurs today, and yes, I've used that term in my life too, and now that I'm on this side of it, I kind of take a little more offense to it, but hey, wisdom comes with dinosaurs. I loved what Richard told me on my post the other day. Richard Cantor, he says, can I be the velociraptor? And I was like, of course you can. But, so I started out very operational, and then got into the selling part of it. A lot of the people that have heard the story, my dad handed me 2 books, because I didn't really have a good trainer. I kind of learned everything on my own, and I was kind of self-taught. I had some good mentors that taught sales, but they weren't good trainers on how to get the lead, how to make the lead sellable, how to make the contact that may not be interested because I'm interesting. So as you know, Justin, that's something that I always tell agents when they tell me a lead's not interested. I always tell them it's because they're not interesting. you've got everything in your portfolio to sell. They're interested in something. They're just not interested in you right now.
Yeah.
So, and then I went into selling, and my very first application I ever sold was a Medicare supplement. And then I got into the underage 65. A lot of people know the name Peter Nauer, Pioneer Life. And I started really learning that aspect of selling under age 65. And the guy that we were working for at the time wouldn't let me and my partner in crime, Lisa Black, go out and sell because he wanted us stuck in the office. He didn't want us to get a taste of that. And so they all went to Hawaii one week, and this big stack of leads came in the office. And I was like, what if I set all of our appointments and we go out and sell? And she was like, oh my gosh, Gaylan, we're going to get in so much trouble. I go, I know, but we'd be the top agent in the company. And we wrote 20,000 plus in annualized premium. And we were called Black and Hendricks. And our boss couldn't figure out who that agent was for the longest. Finally get in front of him. And I'm like, okay, Lisa Black, Gaylan Hendricks. And so we really figured out how to sell health insurance in the under age 65. And so we started using a lot of what we learned in the field that week, training. And then our boss, not wanting to lose us, let us start selling a little bit a week. And so that was a ton of fun. And then when I left him, I went to work for a guy that owned a large insurance company here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Had a great reputation at the time of paying renewals. And in the day and age, there were tons of insurance companies. They were all in Texas. There was like 660 of them right here. So the competition was fierce. Everybody was biting everybody in the back. That's why y'all hear me talk about it all the time. I lived in that world. But he and I took a different route after we did some product design, and we got in the annuity business. And I really found a place where I could excel and fly above the radar. And we were hiring all these guys that had all this sales experience. And finally, one day, Richard said, hey, look, I'm going to let all them go, and I'm just going to have you go to all the offices. So in a month's time, I would float between 4 of our offices. I was exhausted. As you know, my son, who's a good friend of yours now, was about 6 years old at the time. And I did that for 4 years. And I decided I wanted to move home and get back in the health insurance space. And he allowed me to do that. And I continued working with him until 2013, built some of the largest organizations. We had one of the largest with Mutual of Omaha at the time. But I got to know a guy along the way by the name of David Morgan, who introduced me to the cancer product. And having lost my dad to cancer, that was a very passion play for me. And I loved selling cancer insurance. And I found out I could sell cancer insurance with any policy I sold, whether it was a Medicare supplement, whether it was an under age 65, whether it was a final expense prospect, annuity prospect. A lot of our agents curb sell today, and they're like, why would somebody that's buying $1 million worth of annuities want a cancer plan? Well, if they're investing $1 million in annuities, they know what the interest rate environment is, and they look at investing money in a cancer plan on themselves, or better yet, their children, and they see that's just a better investment of their money. And so I always try to find ways to sell, not ways to not sell. And I think that's the difference between the failure agents in our business and the successful ones. Mm-hmm. The ones that always find an excuse of how not to are going to find a way of how not to make the 6 figures as well. So I just don't surround myself with those people.
They're going to talk themselves out of the sale because they're trying to sell it to themselves
every day.
They're also the type of people that have like this really high buyer threshold, and it's difficult. Most great salespeople aren't that difficult to sell something to, because they're like, you know what, I've bought in. And so when it's easy to buy in to things, it's easy for you to, make a case for it rather than against it, like you're saying. And the cancer insurance thing is like, I do pretty well. My dad does pretty well. We have large cancer policies on our entire family. Just seems like a no-brainer to us. And a lot of those people that are investing heavily into annuities, there's some tax write-off potential for health insurance. I tell agents, every agent that works here, I'm like, if you don't have a 50,000 plus cancer benefit on every one of your family members, it just doesn't really make sense. You get commission on it, first of all, then you get then it's technically a tax write-off because most of those guys have a self-employed aspect to what they're doing. And the benefit is great. And if you get cancer, even if you have really good health insurance, who's not going to be able to use a $50,000 check tax-free, when that happens? So we
right
do.
there, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you bring up a
No.
great point. I'm blown away at how many licensed agents don't write their own annuities, don't start a flexible annuity for themselves, and have their own 401k that they contribute to every month. I mean, Dave Ramsey for the longest hated cancer plans because he thought they all were 401k. Even the best financial guru did not really understand cancer plans. He thought they all had return of premium. And he's like, why would you invest in an insurance product to save a small amount of money each month that you're probably going to lapse because you don't have the discipline to save your own money? When he finally found out that these cancer plans didn't have ROP, he became the biggest proponent of them because he could see what the high risk factor was on cancer. And he was like, okay, if you're in that 85 percentile over age 50, but we know you can't get a very good interest rate over here, you for sure should invest your money in that. But if you've got the genetics, you should buy those on your children. You should buy that on family members. And I think it's really interesting when you start putting in your brain all the different ways you can be successful. I use a lot of catchphrases, and people always ask me why I do that in selling. I do it, one, to remind myself to retain information that's important to relay to my client. But secondly, it's really important in customer retention, because when you're in the senior market, a lot of people forget. So when you can say to them, hey, remember we talked to your kid about spending that $1 a day so they wouldn't have to pull that money out of their 401k. That's a nugget that when your customer retention team says, hey, remember, they'll go, oh yeah, I do remember her saying that now, or I do remember him saying that now. And yeah. I think that's what kind of sets me apart from the rest. I have fun doing this. I love teaching. I love coaching. I love watching others do well. And it's funny how many people will write me in instant messenger and say, I've just never met anybody that really wants others to do that well. And I think that's sad. I mean, when I hear that, it really makes me sad, because that's kind of the way the world is being perceived. Yeah. And I don't want to be perceived that way. It's really important to me, especially with these young people coming up, to pay it forward. I think you're blessed when you do that, and that's a great reason to do it. But secondly, it's just the right thing to do.
Well, people that are, acting in that selfish capacity too, should understand that selfishly, they would actually be better off in the macroeconomic world if their sole focus was on leaving people in a better place than they found them, whether it's agents or anybody. And I get into this too. Like, one of the things that drives me crazy is this, witch hunt attitude within the agent community to report each other to the DOIs and I'm like, you guys don't understand like what you're really doing. You're creating the temperature that agents are bad. And look, I'm not saying that there's not like the really bad agent that ends up being like a fraudster. But when you hear a client that says, oh, so-and-so called me and I didn't give him permission at all, and he signed me up for this advantage plan, take that with a grain of salt. Because I can tell you, there are a lot of clients that are embarrassed that they let somebody talk them into something, and they don't want to tell you that, so they make something up. Then you go report on somebody. And hey, we had this in the office, Gaylan. This is just a side story, but last week we had, or a couple weeks ago, we had somebody in our office we did a seminar, educational seminar, and this lady came later on. She was turning 65, dual eligible, and one of the agents got her on a dual special needs Aetna plan. And then somebody else cold called her, and apparently said, oh, you're turning 65, you need to get your plan G, whatever their script was. And she called complaining about it, to us. And so one of the agents in our office told her, oh, well, you could report him. Well, here's what happened. She calls Medicare. She doesn't even know the agent's name. and she reports this agent. It came through as a complaint on the agent that told her to report it, even though it wasn't against him. So we're sitting here having to like tell Aetna, like, listen, this is not what happened. And so it was a lesson to them. I'm like, don't tell these clients to call Medicare for almost anything. Like,
it backfires.
It backfires.
So what happened to me? So I worked with an agency here, and they were doing things that were right technically, but the way they were pitching it was not correct. Well, I was an officer, never had written an application while they were under that contract. So this group of competitors around here, and they know who they are, but it backfired on them in a big way. Yes, that agency got fined. The shareholders and the officers, because they're listed on the franchise tax report in Texas, got fined. I got fined, and I hadn't been there for 3 years, but my name was still on a franchise tax form because it's a revenue thing for some of these DOIs. So what happened is, yes, everybody had to pay their fine for the revenue for the great state of Texas, because we don't charge an annual licensing or appointment fee in Texas. So they, like, if you miss continuing education by 1 day, it's $1,500 fine.
Oh, wow.
So I was talking to the commissioner that just currently left the great state of Texas. And I was telling him about this story, and he goes, I hate when that happens. He goes, that's why I'm going back into the private sector. He said, it is just a boy eat boy world. And I'll never forget him saying that to me. And one of the things that was interesting about this firm that reported this last agency that I was with back in 2001, they are no longer relative in the business. They reported everybody that ever replaced one of their apps out of meanness. And they would lie about them. They would say ugly things about them. And now they're not even relative. And what I'll encourage you by that commentary is, yes, nobody likes to pay a fine, and I certainly didn't, but I had a lawyer tell me, pay the fine. That fine is so minimal compared to what you're making. Pay the fine, move on down the road, try to have a good attitude about it. Yes, you didn't do anything wrong, but it's a bureaucracy thing.
Yeah.
And guess what? The client doesn't win. When those fines are paid by agents, that doesn't go to the client, that goes to the state. Mm-hmm. So while you're thinking you're helping your client, you're not. Now, like you said, Justin, yes, we have these departments in place to protect the consumers, and they do a great job of that 95% of the time. But when they get entangled in these little webs we weave, it always comes back worse on the agent. I've never seen that turn out good for the agent. And it rarely turns out good for the client when the agent's using the client to get back at somebody. Plus, y'all, here comes Mama Medicare, I guess, or Medicare Mama, whatever y'all call me these days. But I'm telling you guys, that's putting bitterness in your heart. You'll never get better if you're bitter. Mm-hmm. Get rid of that mentality. And those people that are doing it to you, man, you reap what you sow. And if you just give people enough rope, and I've had this gentleman right here who I have a lot of respect for, but I've had this conversation with him many times over the years. And another great guy out there, because there are people when they become jealous, their hearts become hardened, and they have no feelings when their hearts become hardened. And you're having all the feelings because you're still happy. You're still out there writing policies and excited about life. So that's why those people hurt you and they're not hurt. But the best thing you can do for yourself, for this industry, for your clients, is to say, you know what? I'm going to surround myself with good people. And I'm going to deal with that, because it's just not healthy. You know, I started out talking when you were asking me about my trajectory, and I love that word. But, you know, I moved to MedSup because it didn't have that backbiting in it. Everybody wanted to help everybody.
Right.
And I love that. And that's why, we've been very vocal, you and I both, at 8% Nation and on our Facebook feeds, about let's get rid of that. Let's move that aside, because what it does is it makes people think like we're at odds, or we're at odds with a carrier, or we care what that person thinks.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes away from our job efficiency. When you're going home at 7 o'clock at night and you're working on the stuff you should have been working on 8 to 5, and you're not giving your family that time, y'all, that is just so unfair. They didn't do anything to deserve that. And I've been guilty of that. I told Justin this a while back. I've been guilty of that more than anybody. I've really learned how important balance is. And that's why y'all see me talk a lot about that at the keynotes I give, because most of my friends are people I work with.
Yeah.
And I want to talk to them after 5 o'clock about their kids. I want to talk to them after 5 o'clock about what they're going to do for their wives. And we still occasionally talk business. I'm not saying we never talk business, but that's more of a social time. Mm-hmm. Do what you need to do 8 to 5, and don't let the distractors distract. I told this young man yesterday, there's all kinds of things you can do to improve your business and make business better. But it's not by listening to that noise. That noise is negative, and it just doesn't need to be between this. So that's my 2 cents for the day.
Yeah, no, I appreciate 2 cents. And I've learned a lot, about this negative back and forth with people, and it doesn't do me any good, really. It just confuses people as to what you're even talking about. So, and not everybody's in the same place. Not everybody has the same opinion of people, and I just kind of let people form their own opinions. There are some people in the industry that I think are toxic, but I'm just going to try to stay away from those people specifically, and build the biggest tower over here, and not worry about if anybody else is building towers. Because if we're all focused on doing the best thing for our business and our family and the people that we care about, if that's all we focus on and not worry about tearing other people down, the world is a better place, because we're all competing towards doing great things for clients and for employees. And that's what builds value.
It's like Ray Kroc said, always build next to your competition. You have something to add to the other. But y'all know how old I am. And my parents used to say, stay away from the Drano, you'll die. And a lot of y'all probably don't know what Drano is, but y'all call a plumber. Back then we used Drano. Ask Bobby Brock, he'll tell you. But it used to be under the cabinet, down lower. But my mother would never put it up, because she wanted us to know what poison was and to stay away from it. And that's what I do. That's why y'all will not hear me use the word can't, because it's poison. You may use the word won't more, but that's really truly what you're saying when you use the word can't. You're really saying, I won't do that. It's not your ability, because you have the ability. You just won't do it. You won't work as hard as one person, or you won't do something that somebody else is doing. And I think that, Justin, what you said was a really good point there. There are some people that are just toxic, but that's in every industry. That's in our everyday lives. I mean, we have family members sometimes that are toxic, and we just stay away from them, except that one day a year, that 2 days a year, and you hang out with them and you do the right thing, but you don't talk about things with them that you want to keep here. And right. I think that's what you have to do as an agent too.
I have to separate business talk from most of my family, because they don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And it gets to the point too, like in our family, like in my family, we are the wealthy ones, right? And mm-hmm. So I've even heard it in my own family. People say things like, why would he need that much money? Stuff like that, and I'm like I'm just sitting over here like Mr. Scrooge counting money or something, which it's just funny, because it's always the outside looking in. And even in our industry, in any industry, most of the people that dislike us, they don't really understand us. They just come up with some perception of what they think is going on. And you're
one of the most generous people. So, and that's what I learned from my mother and father. You know, I'm generous, I'm giving, and people will say, you know, I remember a quote that was made not too long ago is, why would you give that away? Well, why wouldn't I? You know, I'm supposed to. And, you know, and I think that question, why does he need that much money? My answer to that is always, well, why not? You don't know what I'm planning on doing with that money.
Right.
You don't know that I may be investing in the Ronald McDonald House, or I may be investing in children's charities in Tupelo. You have no idea what I may be doing with that.
And who cares how much money somebody has? You should only care how they get it. And if they get it by adding value somewhere, or providing a service, or creating a business that has a purpose, who cares how much money they get and what they do with it? But when they, but I do find that most people that amass any, significant amount of wealth end up having philanthropy as a large part of what they do, because if they don't, they won't be happy.
No,
people
you have to feel that need.
Now they might have a lake house or a ranch or a nice or a sports car or something, but who cares? I mean, if I want to have a Lamborghini that I can't even drive because the roads are so crappy in Mississippi, that's my own thing. As long as I didn't get it by stealing that money from someone else, it doesn't matter.
Well, I have 2 of those 3. I would like to have 3 of those 3.
Yeah, I would like to have philanthropy, the nice car, and the bonus house. So
I need the lake house. I got the ranch.
You do,
but
the lake house. I do want a lake house bad, just because be nice to boat.
Well, and I watched that beachfront bargain on HGTV. Really gets me excited. I'm like, what if you could find that house? And I know you're Mr. Rental Guru. I'm not Mr. Rental Guru or Miss Rental Guru. I just want to go stay there and let somebody else rent it out for me, and then I come back and stay again. That works for me.
I like the investment property side of it, just because they're appreciating assets. But I mean, it's like you put money in annuities, and there's probably a point where I'll start hedging some of mine into annuities as well. Right now, for me, the rental aspect is putting money there where there's a little bit of work from me, but it's like they're just appreciating assets. Somebody else is paying money. It's like they're funding my annuity, kind of.
Right.
And it might be a day where I just try to start selling all of it and then dumping all that money into FIAs. Plus, I get a commission off of the FIAs, so that's nice. Double dipping.
I always tell agents, if you don't want to write yours, I'll write it for you.
Yeah, for real. That's what I tell them when they're about the cancer policies too. I mean, you need a cancer policy for your family. If you don't want the commission on it, I can write it. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, so I want to ask you a couple more questions, and lead up. Obviously, this is something I don't know if it needs to be addressed. I'm not the person to address it, but since I have you on here, it might be good. We have these. We have a lot of rigmarole about men and women, in the industry right now. And me and you have always gotten along without it even being identified that man, woman, like that doesn't matter, And I know that there obviously are problems in the past with men and women, just like you talking about your story there. There was times where they wanted to put you in this box because they didn't want you to get a taste of this, that sort of thing. But I find that overall, we're probably in a much better place in that regard than we have ever been. And I don't think
I'm already powering up.
Yeah. And I don't think we're trying to, hold women back, but maybe because I shave my head and I'm a white guy and heterosexual, then I might get me and Christian might bear the brunt of some of that sometimes. But I mean, obviously we want to be pro woman, and we want to put on, that face, like for Medicare Con and for everything, and don't ever want it. But some of the rumor mill stuff, like coming out that we were having a all male golf outing, and somebody said, well, why is it a golf resort? Well, we don't live near the beach. That's what we got is golf resorts.
I think I'm getting more likes and comments on my posts and your post than I have on some of my original posts.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm going to take the lead on this. One, I think every woman should make the same amount of money as a man. I've said that from day one, minute one. There's not a better industry than the insurance industry on the commission side. Nope. I said commission side for that to happen.
Yeah.
There has been times in my career on the corporate side where the men have made more money than the women. And I believe that's still the case. I think it's unfair in a lot of roles. But I think it's changing every day. But on the commission side, it is so equal. It is crazy. But I am still a woman of the South. And if that offends some of my Northerner friends, I am so sorry about that, because we have some of the best gentlemen in the South. I like being treated with respect. I like my doors opened. I like somebody saying, hey, can I order your meal? I like somebody saying, after you. So I want it both ways. And here in my home, I get that. When I'm with Justin, I get that. When I'm with Christian Brindle, I get that. You know, one of the things that I think is so important for all women to hear on this call, I know from time to time your feelings have gotten hurt. Sometimes by Justin, sometimes by Christian. But I think that's because you don't know them personally. You only know them through email, or you only know them through Facebook, or you only know them through social media. You know, watch out. I've hurt men's feelings because they didn't know me. And they'll go, no, you hurt their ego. No, that's not true, because I have an ego. Anybody in this business should have an ego, by the way. If you don't have one, you need to get one, because if you don't, that's why you don't have skin.
You heard me and Brad Lee arguing about the definition of ego.
Yeah.
I think most people should have a little bit of an ego, or it's how you value yourself.
I think you got to have a big one.
Yeah.
Arrogant egos are different than big egos.
Yeah, it's like a narcissistic push if it goes a little too far, but you definitely don't want to have low self-esteem, you know, because you're not going to survive in sales very long.
Nope. And it's the difference between arrogance and confidence, right? Mm-hmm. But I will say this, and I've told a lot of these women, and fortunately, I know of two right off the bat, you know, and I'm saying this for everybody. I'm not saying this to call Justin out. I'm not saying this to call myself out even. But, you know, there were two of these women about a couple of years ago. Justin and I were talking about him, and I go, well, hey, you know, I came over here to support you. I've actually met him. I've talked to him. I don't think they're that bad of people, but I think that y'all aren't communicating. So maybe you should reach back out. And to his credit, he did. And they're friends now. I'm not saying that they agree on every single thing. I don't know that Justin and I agree on every single thing. I haven't found much we don't agree on, but yeah, we don't. We're people, and we're going to not agree all the time. And guess what, ladies, you don't want somebody that's going to agree with you all the time. When you have those disagreements, it creates a third brain, and it makes you more intelligent than you were before you engaged in that conversation. So look at it that way. You know, when I was growing up in this business, y'all hear me talk about the glass ceiling a lot, that I didn't know what that was. And that is an honest to good, truthful statement. I didn't know, because I've never been in a box. I've never been told, you know, yeah, Mike Brown might have said, hey, we don't want y'all to go taste that because y'all might leave us and you might be successful. Well, guess what? We did anyway. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't really putting us in a box. I think that was some insecurity. We all have insecurities. Here's another newsflash. People with big egos automatically have insecurities. It's a well-known fact. Mm-hmm. And we all have it. But what I will say about this new roar, it's embarrassing to me as a woman leader. You know, what I think we should do, I think we should have those conversations behind the scenes. If it's not going well for you, then contact somebody like me and say, hey, I don't know why I'm not getting along with this person. I will pick up the phone. Justin knows I do it. Christian knows I do it. I've called Christian on a Saturday morning and say, whoa, Nellie, take that post, you know, and apologize for it. Don't take it down. Because when you take it down, y'all, people know you took it down. They screenshot. Even me, Miss Not Technologically Perfect. I'm pretty good at social media. I know how to screenshot too. So apologize for it if it was wrong. Mm-hmm. Own it. Be accountable. But likewise, if somebody is being disrespectful or rude, hit it straight between the eyeballs and say, hey, I don't like the way you're treating me. It's hurting my feelings. And it's okay to say your feelings are hurt. I mean, we're made up
one of the things that ends up happening too is there will be a post about somebody, and then people think it's about them, or they think it's about other they'll think it's about women, or they'll think it's about something that they draw some sort of. So I would encourage, if I'm doing it, you can reach out to me, because odds are there's only about one guy in the world, and I'm trying not to even hurt him. There's only about one person in the world that I would ever even be talking about on there. In particular, because I if I'm talking about an ideology, I probably am not trying to tie one person to it. But and I've had people, like, I can't remember, the other day I put something up and this guy emailed me and thought I was talking about him. I didn't even know who he was. I was just like, so I don't even think I was talking about anybody in particular. But we try to, we all we have moods. Everybody's moody. Everybody's got some degree of moody.
That's type A personality.
Yeah. And so there might be times where I'm thinking, I got to say this because I have to get this point across. Probably not in particular about one person or one thing, or especially not one group. I can tell you, there ain't never a time where I'm trying to do something to ostracize women or black people,
and I know that,
or homosexuals or anything like that. Like, so I'm not trying to do that at all. I mean, I have a wife, and
I know your wife,
and
I'm not going to let you get away with that.
No.
And here's the other thing. He has a daughter. See, one of the things that I think, and I love talking about Rob Ray on this, because I think this is when it woke me up that I can really help in this industry. And it's because of the effect that my father had on me, the effect that my husband has on me, the effect that my son has on me. We've got so many subject matters that we can argue about. We can argue about nepotism. We can argue about women. We can argue about men. We can argue about color. Well, here's the truth, guys. Media likes something out there to keep it going, because if it's not going, they don't think you're going to watch it. Mm-hmm. And I'm the exact opposite. Y'all heard me say at the beginning, I don't want to be around negativity. It affects my income. And while a lot of people will say, oh, so you're about the almighty dollar. Well, yeah, I guess I am. I'm about the almighty dollar over negativity. But my faith and what my kids are going to say about me when I'm gone, what the Justin Brocks of the world are going to say about me when I'm gone, that's what I'm proving today. And what you want to do is you want to look down that road. What are people going to say about me? And write it down. Mm-hmm. And if you don't think people are talking that way about you right now, then fix it right now. Because it means if they're not going to. Yeah. Because you're going down a road that's not productive. This
a good exercise. You if you look into, like, Tony Robbins talks about neuro-linguistics programming, mm-hmm. and saying things to yourself, and people talk about self-actualization, writing down goals. One practice you could do is write down how people perceive you in the future as if it's already happened. So write down, my daughter thinks I'm the best dad in the world. And it becomes this, like, subconscious driving factor in every decision you make. Like, now you're thinking, well, this is going to happen. So what has to happen for that to happen? What do I have to do so that my daughter does think I'm the best dad in the world? And if I'm sitting here and she looks back and says, well, my dad's telling me I can be president if I want to, but he's thwarting women in his industry, that's not going to be something that I want to do. Now, I am a very big proponent of value. And so,
not just because you're a woman, but you're a woman.
Right. Well, like I have you and Danielle are speaking, and I am actively, just so people know, looking for another female speaker. And I'd like it to be 50-50, but the goal is, and some of these come early on, like, because it's in my friend circle and there are people communicating with me. Right. But when I'm looking for speakers, to me, just to put somebody up because they're a woman next to Gaylan and Danielle, who have accomplished so much in our industry, doesn't make sense to me. And there are other women that are definitely accomplishing things. But I'm looking for like somebody that even those women can look to for like, okay, you've accomplished this. I mean, what you have done and the path and the path and the timeline, and then, you know, what Danielle's done in just a short amount of time really are extremely commendable things. And I'm sure that there's been times where gender has played a role in holding people back. But I also think to some degree, you know, people love you guys because you're females in those roles. You had to work really hard to get there, but now that you are a female in those roles, like now it's kind of like a great platform to be like, here's how you do it. And I would think that both of you would say, no, the way that you got to where you are, never circumvented around playing the victim, you know, because of it. It was always, and I'm not saying it's not the victim. It's the same thing with, you know, if somebody's Black and dealing with it. You know,
it's like the rah that's out there right now.
Well, you just have to like circumvent that, you know, that talk is like, yes, it might be harder because and it may be easier for me, you know, and I get that, but I'm actively trying to give back to people that are having those issues and try to tear down
there. I disagree though, because if I'm in a field advisory council meeting, and up until about the last 3 years, I was the only female in the room.
Right.
But what happens there is not that everybody's coming to me because I'm Miss Hot Stuff. They're coming to me because I bring a value.
Yeah.
You know, but you'll have women, and women listen to me on this because I speak both sides. I've done it on the stage at 8% Nation. I did it at the stage at Ms. Medicare. Sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. The show Mean Girls didn't just come out of nowhere. There have been mean girls in my life, but I will tell you what I have learned to do is surround myself with those women that are like-minded, that when I start going down that excuse road, they yank me back and they go, no. And I've had more guys come up to me in field advisory council meetings and go, I want to come do a training with you. I want to come to your office. I want to see what you do. I want to see how you do it. And at the end of the day, what I figure out about that is being that one that sticks out is not a bad thing. We get so caught up on political mambo jumbo that doesn't put dollars in the bank. The only people y'all are feeding is CNN or MSN. You're making their paychecks go up. You're making the Savannah Guthrie's paycheck go up. You're making people like that check go up instead of your own, because you're feeding into that. When you start feeding into yourself, when Danielle Kunkel was on the stage and said, I partner with Gaylan, and she said this on an Eric Fierro video, because of what she does for me. You know, we get into FMO debates. We get in, I mean, we have to have a debate over everything. I can't wait for the day when we don't have a debate about something. I may not live that long. But, you know, what I try to do as a field marketing organization is build in my people. And I won't be able to build into my people. Hold on one sec. Let me text somebody real quick. This is the insurance business, y'all. We might as well go live. But, you know, I'm seeing different people come out in these breakout sessions at 8% Nation. And what I find out is they are dynamos, and they've been hidden under this little rock, not because a man put a rock on top of them, but because they had not found their stride.
Yeah.
They didn't find that somebody to believe in them. Well, guess what? Now they've tasted a little bit of success and they're okay. They're coming out from under the rock. Yeah. And it's up to you to move. It's not up to the guys in our industry to move you. You've got to move yourself. You've got to be confident. And when you're confident and you move yourself, those guys are going to bring you in. And you know what I wanted to say about Justin a while ago when he was talking, and he's like me, he gets passionate. You know, his daughter, whenever he calls me and she's in the car, the first thing she'll say is, I miss you, or I love you. Okay, well, she wouldn't be saying that if her dad wasn't saying good things too. Now, she's been around me, but she's not around me every day. So when I know that I'm welcomed, it's when I look at those, I call 6 degrees of separation. You know, their kiddos, their agents. Will Chapman posted on a thing yesterday, Gaylan, we just love you. Well, I don't work with Will every day, but Will's hearing that from his leadership. So what I want to say to women before Justin and I announce our good news coming down the pike is get over that. If you need some encouragement, call me. If you need me to help break through a barrier that you think's existing, one, I may be able to just tell you it's not existing at all. You may just be feeling that. But these guys are busy, just like you are, just like I am. And they don't have the time to pick up the phone and call you every 5 minutes, because that doesn't put dollars in the bank. What puts dollars in the bank is building your organization. And that's what talks. You know, the reason people wanted to hear Danielle from the stage was not because Gaylan loves Danielle. It's they love Danielle. You know, people want to come hear Justin talk. Yeah, it's great that Gaylan loves Justin, but they love Justin. And when you are associating yourself with people that other people love, then you start picking up those traits that people love about them. And you become full. And that's what I would encourage all of you to do, is just get on the good side of things and reach out to people. So that's enough on that rigmarole. And you know what about the rah-rah? I do want to handle that one right here. Rah-rah is good for the soul. Rah-rah may not make you $1 million, but rah-rah gets you up in the morning. There are all kinds of motivational speakers. And when everybody says, Gaylan, how can you get up in front of that many people and just talk to them like you're talking to me? Because I look at their eyes. You know, I look if they're listening. And when I watch that audience and I see they're excited by something I'm saying, then I'm going to invite them to a context conversation where I'm going to give them substance to match the rah-rah. So you have to have both to be successful, because not everybody has a cheerleader at home. So those of you that are questioning the rah-rah, you're offending people, because some of those people sometimes just don't have the ability to say, I don't have anybody in my personal life that believes in me that much. Yep. So butt the hell out. Let them go to these conferences, let them fill themselves up with joy. And then guess what? If you encourage that, they may come to your downline one of these days. But you offending them day after day after day, you're ripping their heart apart. And I'm coming after you, because I don't think that that builds joy. I don't think that that builds camaraderie. And it sure as heck doesn't build community. So lay off of that. Those people that bring the rah-rah, they're just as needed. And if they're not bringing context, well, that's on them. They may not get that agent somewhere down the road, but they're giving them something else they need.
Yep. No,
sorry.
I agree. Well, Gaylan, I appreciate it. I just wanted to, talk about those things, not because I just think that it's you have a perspective, as someone who's actually been through a lot of, things in your life and having to go through some of those things firsthand. And the way that I think you handle it is graceful and probably has worked to your benefit by not doing that, playing the victim, even if you are the victim sometimes, Anyway, somebody said, and I'll leave it at this. Somebody once said one of the best things that men may have going for them, or I think it may have been said like it was white men or whatever, is that nobody lets them be victim anymore. So basically, if they're not successful, and I think I've said this to people in here before, I was like, what are you doing? You're a white straight guy. You ain't got no excuse. You better be successful. You're just a damn loser, you know? And
Well,
that I think probably works to their benefit because it's
it
back
does.
against the wall, you know?
It does. And here's the other thing, and we'll sum this one up. Some people take offense to that commentary, but that's what's being put out by the victims. And so I think sometimes you have to address it. It's hard. Nobody likes to say it. I remember when I was growing up, we didn't really know how to refer to people of other colors and races and creeds and all that stuff because it was not a big deal. Everybody just kind of got along. Yes, there was some stuff in the media, but we only had 3 networks then. And you know what? They had to tell the true story because the other network held the other one accountable. Now we have so many media outlets, nobody's fact checking. And when some of these big newscasters go down because they outright lied to you, the public, they should go down. And my hope and my prayer is that we all one day can just be John Lennon and be one. You know, I didn't agree with John Lennon politically, probably wouldn't today, but I agreed with him on the way he lived his life. And that was of joy. We don't have to agree with everybody. And matter of fact, the Bible says we're not going to. And we have Judgment Day each by ourselves. I don't need Justin to judge me. I don't need to judge you. You don't need to be judged. You don't need to be judging. Yeah. My lash tech is the best person on the planet. You know, the one that does my eyelashes. I know y'all think she's probably, you know, just a girl that does lashes. I think she's amazing because she says, our only job in this world, we only have one. If we just look at it, we have no pressure in life. We're just commanded to love. And when we're commanded to love, we have absolute joy. And there are people that are going to, yes, this is the term I use, piss us off. But move on. Love the next one. You know, I always say you got to get 3 no's to a yes or on to the next. That's what you do. Yeah. And you're fine for it. So let's announce our good news.
I know. Good news. So good news is obviously people know that have watched this, that Gaylan is coming to Medicare Con. And at Medicare Con, we're having a lot of, you know, great friends and speakers that we have, you know, collided with in a lot of different events in a lot of different ways. But a lot of us haven't worked hierarchically or systematically together in any way, or just friends and like to collaborate for the good of the industry. Some of these people have reached high parts of the industry, and we pick up the phone and share information with each other and are open. And I've grown closer to a lot of them because of my relationship with Gaylan, you know, and then it evolved into my relationship with Beish, and then Jagger, and now Danielle and I are doing stuff together for Nehu. And so really the announcement that I'm thinking you're referring to is us, you know, coming together, like you said, like the Beatles said, come together.
That should be our walk-up song.
Right. To do to do panels that we can discuss the evolution of our industry news, and also try to formally, you know, be it Nehu or some other medium, put us together to be activists for our industry. Right. But you guys that are watching too, like, this is a problem where, like, a lower, sometimes somebody gets so I'm just a field agent. All that stuff doesn't affect me, but it does. And we want to try to keep you informed from the top down so that you can utilize that information to keep our industry good as a collective, because we're only as strong as our weakest link, and we have to work together. So really,
that's not well said.
So the panel
is so good, Justin.
Well, good. So we are wanting to come together, you know, and this is, you know, to further what we were talking about earlier. No matter who you are, what your role is in our industry, if you are, you know, part of this industry, you know, this is something that we used to say in the Marine Corps. There was no racism or sexism in the Marine Corps. Everybody was green. So, and in this, you know, Medicare world, we don't care about all this identity stuff. We don't care about what role you have in the industry, but if you're part of it and you're latching onto it, we need to work together to keep it strong and growing. And for some of the people that have reached the highest height of it and may even eventually sell out of it and be gone, even like I'm just talking to Danielle. I mean, even if she's not in the industry forever and decides that she could ride off into the sunset, sounds like part of her long-term objective is to continue to give back to the industry, regardless of whether it's her primary revenue source, because it did give her a lot of purpose and a tremendous income and a life. So, so anyway, we just want to announce, and I'll let Gaylan, drive the final nail into it, but we want to announce that we're going to be continuously getting together to drive the narrative and bring the news and try to help us grow together. And we're going to do that at Medicare Con too.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's really exciting about this for me is the experts that we don't even know out there, based on the questions that we'll tee up. We did this at 8% Nation. I had this idea. I woke up one night going, hey, we need a panel on 8% Nation. Danielle had done one on a Nahu thing. And man, it got so many, views, like the chat was crazy. Mm-hmm. And so if you watched 8% Nation, we were going to have Richard Cantu, Danielle, Taylor Martin, who's a Wikipedia, y'all, by the way, and Robert Beige. Well, Dante couldn't make it, or Richard Cantu. And so we want to have him on for sure. But what we found out at 8% Nation is that everybody was like, oh my gosh, that was a wow moment. Cody has said he's heard it over and over and over and over. And the reason it was a wow moment is because those people are wows. Those are people that are what I call the Elvises and the Janis Joplins of our industry. And I was just flattered to be part of it. And what I think we would like to do, we're going to kick off where we're doing these panels, and Justin's going to tee it up, and we'll figure out how you're made aware of it. We'll probably share it in all the groups, but Justin has some of the best video crew in the industry. And we'll probably just have these little panels, like we're trying to target once a month. But during AEP, we know sometimes that can be hard. But you know what? I was doing trainings during AEP from 5 to 8 in the morning and 5 p.m. to 8 in the evenings because people needed a fresher up. They were getting burned out. They were working all day and they just needed some time to relax and get some info. So we may do something. But what we're going to do is we're going to send out opportunities for you to ask the questions you want to know. And we may be putting a panel together. I have some great friends in this industry that I plan on calling on because I think that they can help some of you who are wanting to build a career shop. Some of you may be wanting a career face-to-face. Some of you may be wanting a Brock and Mortar. Some of you may be wanting a call center. Some of you may be wanting, hey, I just want to create 10 leads for me a week. How do I do that? And we are going to bring some of the best of the best. And what our plan is for Justin and I to be co-interviewers and, also give some of our ideas too. But we have hopes that you'll like this so much that we're going to have one of these at Medicare Con. And so we think everybody's going to be thrilled to see it. So much so at 8% Nation, people were like, it was too short. We needed more. And so what we're planning on doing is giving you more at Medicare Con. So be ready for that. And then the last thing I want to tell you guys, Justin and I are, as he said, I was going to use the word collaborating. I like his word colliding. I think that would be fun. Boom. So I'm coming to Tupelo on September the 2nd. I did a road training in Alabama, just down the road, got to go see the resort we're going to be at for Medicare Con. It's gorgeous. And for the record, I don't like being around stinky men. I like the spa. So being excluded from a golf tournament that never really existed was totally okay with me. But I think if the guys want a golf tournament, they should have one. But I've never had girlfriends that wanted to play in a golf tournament that didn't get to. So that kind of stuff just needs to stop. And if you're one of my good friends who started that conversation, check with me first. I usually know the ins and outs of everything my Medicare sons are doing. And I probably could have put that out for you overnight. And you wouldn't have spent so much anxiety on it. But it also doesn't drive people to you. When you do that, it drives people away from you, because we all have to play nice in this space. And, I think you're going to be better because you're part of a bigger picture. And, everybody asked the question, Justin, and I'm going to bring this up. You didn't bring it up, so I'm going to bring it up. Well, why aren't men invited to Miss Medicare? Well, here's the thing. I know we've got some groups out there, women in insurance. I kind of look at it like the Negro college situation. They need more attention right now. I was probably 10 years old when I saw the first ad for that. And I thought, what a great idea. And I never thought bad of them for running that commercial, because they needed more money. They didn't have enough money. The women in insurance and Ms. Medicare right now, they need that time. They need that confidence from other women. But I think what you'll see down the road eventually is you'll see a Mr. and Mrs. Medicare conference. I think you will see a, just Medicare conference. Somebody asked me the other day if I'm offended by being one of the best women leaders. Well, the answer is no, because that's almost like Miss America, honestly. But number two, I just want to be a leader. But being a woman leader, if that helps other people excel, then I'm okay with that title. But I can assure you that we all need to be together, and we're going to have all these events we can be together. And if we're having a Miss Medicare conference and they want to have a male golf tournament, well, I know it's not cool for them to say male golf tournament, because we've made that not cool in our society. But I don't have a problem with that, because sometimes we are different for a reason. And we need to love our differences. We're just not all made the same, and we don't all think the same. That's why we're not friends with every single person in our country, because we don't want to be friends with those people. We want to be friends with other people. And, that's just what the playground's all about. Picking out a friend you can trust. And I think that we need to get over it. I think we need to move past it. And I think you need to be part of the bigger picture and let us make you better, so that you can pay it forward to the generations that are coming up behind you.
I don't think who you choose to be your friend is always at the expense of someone that doesn't fit their avatar. If I'm friends with, my best friend's a black guy or a white guy or a black woman or a Hispanic woman or what, who gives a shit? That's who my friend is. So hey, is that a puppy?
Yes, my new puppy. Come here. Come here. This is my new baby. After your kids move out of the house, you get ones that just listen.
That's
and
right.
They don't talk much, but they squeak.
I know. Well, I bet that puppy is ready for Gaylan to spend some one-on-one time with.
So I got another call. I'm sure Taylor's waiting. Well, but Justin, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and thank you. And we're going to have a lot more panels, a lot more get-togethers. Everybody's going to see Gaylan at Medicare Con. And even though we talk about controversial things, I think that hearing real people talk about it in real time should be refreshing to people, instead of just being, one side spewing what the other one wants to hear, or vice versa. So, anyway, and we'll be more open about this stuff and everybody we talk to. So not just Gaylan, even though she has a great perspective. So thank you, Gaylan.
All right. Bye.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
Good luck and good selling.
Did you subscribe to the YouTube channel? Did you like the video? Please turn your notifications on and head over here to our next video. And if you haven't joined our Facebook group, check out Medicare Gurus. It's over 7,000 members strong currently, and there's tons and tons of wealth of information and knowledge from experienced agents, as well as new agents that you can find and help shepherd. So thank you guys so much for watching. Check this video out right here.